When an institution commits to strict ethical standards while quietly executing operations that violate them, the resulting friction creates immense pressure. Eventually, stress fractures appear. In 1957, psychologist Leon Festinger mapped the mechanics of this pressure. He defined a cognition as any concrete piece of knowledge an individual holds about themselves, their behavior, or their environment. When two of these cognitions contradict each other, for example, knowing that transparency is required, but actively hiding data to hit a deadline, the human system generates a powerful force to resolve the discrepancy. This tension, known as cognitive dissonance, acts as a measurable, strategic driver of behavior. It forces the brain to take immediate action to resolve the conflict. Understanding how this force is managed reveals why highly rational systems normalize deviance. The rules of this management are governed by a specific equation. Dissonance magnitude equals the number of dissonant cognitions multiplied by their importance, divided by the number of consonant cognitions multiplied by their importance. The numerator contains the dissonant variables. These are the specific facts or behaviors causing structural stress or guilt. If this number climbs, the psychological system threatens to tip. To prevent that collapse, the brain relies on the denominator. These are the consonant elements, the justifications and existing beliefs used to dilute the stress and level the scale. The brain reduces magnitude through two mechanical paths. It either artificially decreases the numerator or forcefully increases the denominator. Systemic unethical behavior occurs when the brain successfully balances this mathematical equation to justify its environment. The modern university campus functions as an environment specifically engineered to generate cognitive dissonance. Institutions mandate collaborative ethics, while students and faculties simultaneously face an intense individual need for competitive survival. Recent studies in the education sector track a causal chain beginning with the introduction of extreme high-performance goals. These goals create an immediate spike in the dissonance numerator. To manage this stress, individuals deploy a mechanism called moral disengagement. This psychological process allows a person to lower the importance variable of their own unethical actions. This disengagement results in knowledge hiding. Students deliberately withhold vital information or assistance from their peers to maintain their position. Data indicates that peer performance motivation has a measurably stronger link to rationalize knowledge hiding than simply playing dumb or evading questions. Students use knowledge hiding as a structural survival tactic, a mechanism engineered by the brain to keep the magnitude formula at zero under impossible demands. In the corporate arena, heritage industries face a nearly insurmountable dissonance equation. They possess decades of problematic historical data that permanently inflates their numerator. Tobacco giant Philip Morris addressed this conflict by creating Mission Winnow. This strategy uses high-profile sanitized sponsorships like Formula One to associate the company with modern innovation. This is an execution of brand decoupling. It is a deliberate strategy used to surgically sever a fresh entity from its parent company's controversial history. Decoupling manipulates the consumer's dissonance equation. By severing the connection, the strategy zeroes out dissonant historical data. This architectural separation allows consumers with high brand affiliation to utilize moral rationalization, embracing the new entity without the weight of the parent company's history. Successful corporate rebranding functions as a calculated mathematical erasure of the consumer's dissonant cognitions. Modern digital platforms function as battlegrounds for moral conflict and rapid data retrieval. Within these networks, digital activists identify corporate decoupling strategies and engineer a countermeasure. They deploy moral recoupling. This form of consumer resistance purposefully and aggressively relinks the new brand back to the parent company's past. This tactic forces the historical, dissonant data back into the consumer's cognitive equation, overloading the psychological system. In a transparent digital ecosystem, permanently zeroing out the dissonance numerator remains structurally impossible. The biological drive for cognitive consistency is universal, yet the mechanisms used to achieve it are culturally modulated. Data tracking 16 to 24-year-olds in collectivist cultures, such as China and Brazil, reveals a distinct pattern. These demographics often utilize the direct path. High social integration enforces rigid moral adherence and harsh judgments to maintain group harmony, keeping the dissonance numerator low. In individualist cultures like the United States and France, a divergent cognitive mechanism emerges, known as the indirect path. In these environments, social belonging generates high creative self-efficacy. This is an individual's deep belief in their own creative abilities. This creates a central paradox. High creative self-efficacy makes individuals significantly more forgiving of their own immoral behaviors. Highly creative individuals are better at inventing consonant cognitions. They artificially inflate the formula's denominator to resolve the conflict without changing their behavior. High creativity provides the exact cognitive flexibility required to rationalize doing wrong while subjectively feeling right. Viewing the academic, corporate, and cultural domains together reveals a unified theory of normalized deviance. Persistent immoral behavior in professional environments rarely stems from a lack of ethics. Performance pressure mechanically forces moral disengagement and knowledge hiding. Brand decoupling serves as a strategic evasion of historical scrutiny, and the creativity paradox provides the ultimate tool for generating internal rationalizations. The normalization of deviance becomes institutionalized when a system successfully reduces its dissonance magnitude to zero. For leaders and strategists, addressing systemic unethical behavior requires structural changes. Demanding better morals or implementing generic ethics training fails to counter these mathematical psychological forces. One structural intervention is the aggressive management of performance pressures and goal setting to prevent the initial trigger of moral disengagement. A second intervention requires increasing the institutional weight of objective knowledge to act as a buffer against creative rationalization. True institutional integrity requires directly altering the math of the cognitive dissonance formula. Long-term organizational survival requires the deliberate architectural management of the dissonance formula.